Hakadosh Baruch Hu, we're going to be continuing with Daf Kaftet Amud Aleph 29a1. So if you remember, yesterday we were speaking about that silka, which is selek. So I always usually translate silka as you guys said, I think it was beets, no? Correct or not?
Yes.
Beets. Okay. So it says here, silka chaya, katil gavra chaya. So selek, which is chay, which is raw, which means it's not cooked to kill someone. So we answer no, hahu bevashil velo bashil. That's only if it's going to be cooked a little bit, but it's not fully cooked. If it's going to be completely raw, so then there's no problem whatsoever. Yeah, he says why? Because it's not mevushal kotzoko, but it's not cooked whatsoever. It is fitting for eating, for consumption, and it's not going to damage anyone. Okay. Next, Ika de Amri. Some people say, Amar Rav Hamnuna says, Em me'aravim b'tradin chayim. You're not supposed to do an eruv with tradin chayim. The Amar Rav Chasta, but says Rav Chasta, Silka chaya, katil gavra chaya. But says Rav Chasta, Asilka chaya, which means raw beets, is going to kill a regular person, a normal, healthy person. So says the Gemara, Vehaka chazina and dekaach levelomaiti. He says, what are you talking about? We see people eating it and nothing happens to them. So says the Gemara, Hatam b'bashil v'lo bashil. You're right. If it's bashil v'lo bashil, that's when it's going to be a problem. But if you eat it completely raw, there's no problem. Amar Rav Chasta, says Rav Chasta, Tavshil shel tradin yafel alev. Betov la'inayim. So of tradin, right? So again, this is again the talking about of the same thing. Okay, we're talking about this tradin. Tradin is spinach, no? Anybody there? Correct or not correct? Tradin.
I think you're talking about partially cooked beets.
No, we finished the partially cooked beets. We're on the next Gemara. Amar Rav Chasta. Tavshil shel tradin.
A dish of cooked beets is healthy for the heart and good for the eyes.
After that.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Tradin. Paul, you also have it.
Apples?
No.
Are we after Ben Azai? You went to the market in Tiberias? Is that where you are?
No.
Before that.
Before, where are you?
Well,
John Paul, you have an art scroll, no?
Yes, but it's what he said.
I can't hear properly. Speak up.
Tardin. What is tardin?
Tardin is cooked beets.
Cooked beets? Okay,
Yes.
so cooked beets. Yafel alev etov la'inayim. It's good for the heart, right? And it's good for the eyes. There's a whole question, obviously, what is yafeh and what is tov? What's the difference? What's the difference in? Yafeh means it's nice, right? Vetov means it's good. What's the difference really between them? V'chol shekel libnei me'ayim, all the more so to the intestines. Amar Abaye says, v'hu diyati v'betafe. That's only going to be if it's only going to be cooked, right, on top of a pot which is on the fire. Ve'avid tuch tuch. And during the time when it's cooking, you hear tuch 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 tuch. You know, you hear the bubbling of it. Okay? That means it becomes very, very soft. So Amar Rava says, Vareni ki ben Azai, I'm like ben Azai, b'shuket veria, which means, right, I was going to come and I was like ben Azai that he said in the Shuk of Tveria, right, which means that there was nothing that sharp. Okay, Amale Haum Rabbanan Rava. So there was the rabbis that said to Rava, Tapuchim bekama. If I wanted to do with apples, how many apples do I need in order to do an eruv? Samalei, he said, are you allowed to do with apples? So says the Gemara, Velo, and why not? But now we learned in the Mishnah Mila, all different types of foods from different species are going to combine in order to make the body, right, that somebody eats it to eat truma, with chetzi pras, with mazon shte seudot leruv, and with mazon of 2 seudot for an eruv. V'kebetza letameh, right, or for a kebetza to be metameh, other types of foods, betumat ochlim. So therefore, you see from here that why wouldn't you? All types of foods you could come and you combine. Why all of a sudden would you not be able to use an apple as part of the eruv? So says the Gemara, what's the question? If it's going to be written kol ha'ochlin, all the types of foods, obviously you could eat it. Rabbi Yochanan says, you don't learn from a general rule. Right? Why? Because there's always exceptions to the rules. Even if it's going to say except for. That was, if you remember, in the past Mishnah, if you remember, where it said, these different things except for, and we said that you don't learn from the general rules. So it says, but rather because we learned mazon shte seudot le'eruv, the mazon of 2 seudot for an eruv, v'kabetza le'tameh tumat ochlin, and a kabetza to be mitameh tumat ochlin. Okay? V'hani nami benet tamueh tumat ochlin. These also make things which are unfit, which means since tapuchim, apples, couldn't purify other things, so for sure, right, you could come and you could do an eruv with tapuchim, with apples. So it says the Gemara, v'kama, how many? Rav Nachman, tapuchim bekav, a kav of tapuchim. It says over here, a kav is 4 lugs. So it's between 1,382 grams and 2,400 grams, or 1.5 quarts to 2.6 quarts. Okay? Fine. Meitvei, so we're going to ask the following question. Rabbi Shimon Elazar says, Uchla, tavlin. We're talking about 1/8 of a log of tavlin. Okay? So that's a very small amount. We're talking about around 43 milliliters. Okay? Velitra yerek, and 1 log of yerek. Okay? So he says, in such a case, Vasara egozin, 10 walnuts, Chamisha farsekin, 5 pears, peaches, no? No, farsek. Farsek is peach or pears?
Farsek is
peach, no?
Peaches.
It says, Ushne limonim and pomegranates, 2 pomegranates, ve'etrog echad and 1 etrog, ve'amar gursak bardare mishmed Rav Menashe bar Shagvule mishmed Rav, and says, Gursak bardare, that's his name, in the name of Menashe bar Shagvule, in the name of Rav, lechen le'eruv. All these foods, the exact same halachot apply to the eruv. So therefore, 10 walnuts for an eruv, 5 peaches, 2 pomegranates, 1 etrog, 1 log of vegetables, 1/8 of tavlinim, of spices. All these things is the same for an eruv. So says the Gemara, v'hani nami, lavi kavarsakim, 1 second. Why isn't apples like peaches? What's the difference? Yeah? So the answer is the Gemara, hane chashive v'hani lo chashive. He says, no. He says that farsek is chashuv. Tapuchim are not chashuv. I don't know if nowadays it's the opposite, but I don't know. Okay. No, people eat more apples probably than peaches, no?
It says in the notes back then the apples were lousy.
Ah, okay, very good. Okay, so Amar of Yosef says of Yosef, Shari lemare, his master should forgive him. Ya Rav Menashe bar Shigvule, Ana amrite nehale amatnitin. I was talking about the words of the Mishnah. Vehu amra braita, and he's talking about a braita, which means I'm talking about a Mishnah, and he's talking about a braita. So obviously you have to forgive him. The Tanakh, we learned in the Mishnah Peah, En pochatin lani bagoren, you're not supposed to minimize for a poor person in this granaries. Michatzi kav chitin vekav seorin, from less than a half a kav of chitin, of wheat, and 1 kav of seorin of barley. Rabbi Meir says, chetzi kav seorin, half a kav of barley, vekav chetzi kusmin, 1.5 kavs of spelt, vekav grogerot, and 1 kav of dried figs, or maneh devela, or a maneh of dried figs, like that's in like a cake. Rabbi Kiva says pras, so you have to give him half of a manah of te'anim of dried figs, chetzi log yain, and half a log of yain. Rabbi Kiva says revi'it, right? A revi'it of wine, 86 milliliters of wine, and 86 milliliters of oil. Rabbi Kiva Omer shminit, 1/8. So it's not a quarter, which is 86, it's 43, right? So that's what I told you before, shminit. Ushar kol perot, and other also fruits. Amar Abba Shaul, kedeshim karem yichu b'hem shte mezon shte mezonot. You give him this in order to sell it, in order to buy food for 2 meals. Amar Rav, and Rav says v'chen le'eruv, the same halacha would apply to an eruv. So says the Gemara, umay ulme dehai mehach. Why is this better than that? Why is the Mishnah better than the Braita? Ilema, if you're going to tell me because we learned tavlin, because tavlin, you don't eat tavlin, you don't eat spices. Spices is in order to enhance the food, but not to eat. Atu hacha milo ktani chitinu sorim. Well, you can't eat raw wheat and raw barley. You're not going to eat it. And but rather, as we learned, chatzi log yain, half a log of wine. Ve'amar Rav, and Rav says, you need 2 revi'its of wine. Okay? Since you need so much, shmamina, so we learn from here, ki amar Rav, under Rav sevechel eruv, ahamat come on this Mishnah, shmamina. So therefore, this is actually a hochacha that Rav was talking about the Mishnah. And therefore, Rav Yosef was, right, what he says over here was makpid on Rav Menashia, that he changed that which he learned because he taught it on the Braita. It wasn't on the Braita, it was on the Mishnah. So it's 2 different halachot. Okay? So Amar Mor says, mazon shte seudot le'eruv. You need the two meals for, right, mazon of 2 seudot for an eruv. Sabra, so remember, adika seuda me'ahai, useuda me'ahai. You need a seuda shlema of one and a seuda shlema of another one. Amar Rav says, no, even half of one, v'shlish v'ravia. Even if you're only going to have a half of a seuda from one and a third or a quarter from another thing, it's still going to be okay. So gufa amarav me'arvim b'shte reviyot shel yain. You're allowed to do an eruv with 2 revi'its of wine. Yeah, so you take 172, no? 86 and 86, 168. Correct? No.
Rabbi, just take 1 second and get me outside the discussion.
And 86 is 160, 172. 172.
It says 172.
172. 172. What did he say?
Put in simple language the last few pages of discussion, the last paragraph outside. What has been the discussion?
The discussion is how much do you need for an eruv, and how much is considered a seudah that you would have to give to a poor person. So there are many different shitot and how much you have to give to a poor person, whether it's a half a kav, this, that, and different types of foods. Afterwards, we say the same halacha would apply to an eruv. So then, according to that, what we're trying to do is, what we're trying to say is that the exact same concept is what we're talking about now to do with the wine. So one mandamar said that you needed 2 revi'its of wine, right, which is 172 milliliters, right? So you need 2 revi'its of wine in order to come and in order to make an eruv with that. Okay, now we would have thought to sort a seudah, right? We would have thought to say that you need a full seudah of each one. And the Gemara is saying you don't need a full seudah of each one. Okay, even if you have a half a seudah from one and half a seudah from another type, it's still going to be okay. Okay? It's sarfin. We're on the bottom of Kaftet, Amud Aleph. Okay? Gufa, Amar Rav, Rav says, Me'arevim mishte reviyot shel yain. You're allowed to do an eruv with 2 revi'its of wine. Says the Gemara, Umi ba'inan kulehai. Do you need so much? But Tanya, we learned in a Braita, Ibn Shimon Elazar says, Yain kedei le'echol bo. Chometz kedei letabel bo. Zetim uvtzalim kedei le'echol bahen. Shte seudot. So it says over here like this. It says, do we need so much? So we learned in a Braita, Ibn Shimon Elazar says, Yain, the wine is enough kedei le'echol bo, in order to eat it, which means in order to be tovel the bread in it. Okay? Chometz kedei letabel bo, also chometz, in order to put the meat in it. They used to use dips. So a lot of these things, they used to be very much big into bit dips. Zetim uvitzalim kedei le'echol bahen shte seudot, and enough olives and onions in order to eat 2 seudot. Okay? So you see from here that it's already enough, 2 reviyot. So why did he say, that's what he's saying. So he says the shiur of wine is kedei letabel bo lechem shte seudot. Right? For sure you don't need 2 revi'its of wine in order to do this. So why did you say that you need 2 revi'its of wine? So it says the Gemara, hatam bechamra mevashla. They were talking about yain mevushal. So therefore, since it's yain mevushal, it's cooked wine, therefore it's enough with a small amount. Rav was talking about not cooked wine, and therefore what you're drinking. For drinking, you need much more. Meaning dipping, you don't need as much as drinking. Drinking, you need much more to drink. Okay? So Amar Mor says, chometz kedei letabel bo. The shiur, the measurement of the vinegar, is to dip in it. Amar of Gidal, Amar Rav says of Gidal in the name of Rav, kedei letabel bo mazon shte seudot shel yerek. It's in order to come and to be metabel mazon of 2 seudot of yerek, of vegetables. Ike de Amri, there are those that say, Amar of Gidal, Amar Rav says of Gidal in the name of Rav, yerek and echal b'shte seudot. We're talking about yerek, which is going to be eaten in 2 seudot. Okay, so we have vegetables enough to be eaten in 2 seudot. So Amar Mor says, Zeitum betzalim kedei le'echol bahem shem mazon seudot. Also the olives and the onions, in order to eat 2 seudot. Okay, So the Gemara is going to ask, are you allowed to do an eruv with onions? But Tanya, we learned in the Braita. Amar Bishimon ben Elazar says Bishimon ben Elazar, Pamachat Shabbat Rabbi Meir Bardizka. Once happened, Rabbi Meir went and he stayed in Ardizka on Shabbat. So he told them, Rabbi, eravti betzalim. I did an eruv with betzalim with onions, right? In order to come to Tivin. So what happened was he told them, you're not allowed to walk. You have 4 amot here. That's it. Why? Because it's not a good eruv. So you see from here that you can't do an eruv with onions. So says the Gemara, La Kashia, there's no question. Ha be'alim, ha be'imahot. Right? What we're talking about is, Rabbi Meir said you're not allowed to do an eruv with the alim of the batzal. With the
leaves.
The leaves, thank you. Yeah, the leaves of the batzal, which if you eat it, it's dangerous. So therefore you can do a bat with the imahot, which are basically the actual body of the onions. You're allowed to, and there's no problem. Okay? The Tanya was learned in a Braita. Achal batzal v'ishkim umet. If a person came and he ate batzal, and then he woke up in the morning and he died, eno omrim ima met. We don't say that, how did he die? For sure, he ate onions. What do you want? But Amar Shmuel, and Shmuel said, Lo shanu ela be'alim. It's only if the leaves of the onions. If you actually eat the onion itself, there's no problem. And even the leaves, we didn't say this, only ela kaftet amubet, 29b. Zelo avtzil zirta. If they didn't grow a certain amount, like a midata zeret, like a pinky. Okay? So then it's called like a type of a poison. Aval avtzil zirta, but if it did grow like a pinky, there's no problem. Rav Papa also said, also we didn't say this, if you did not drink shechar, beer, at the time of eating it. But if you drink beer, let lamba, there's no sakana. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita, lo yochol adam batzal mivnei nachashebo. A person should not eat onions because of the nachashebo, the eris, the poison inside of it. U'maser Rav Chanina she'achal chetzi batzal v'chetzi nachash. So there was a story with Rav Kiva that he ate, Rav Chanina that he ate a half of a batzal and a half of a nachash. Sorry, v'chetzi nachashebo v'chalan. He became sick, he was going to die, natalamut. So then they prayed for him and he lived. Because the entire generation needed him. So since everyone needed him, that's why he lived. By the way, you should know, this is very, very important for Yamim Nuraim. Rav Yisrael Salanter used to say, the biggest segula to live out the year is that everyone needs you. Become a person that is needed by the community. If you're a person that everyone needs you, so then you have a guarantee. Yeah, guarantee on life. That's what we just read. Yeah, we're right before Rosh Hashanah. Very apropos. Yeah, very important. Okay? So, Amar Bizera, Amar Shmuel. Says Bizera in the name of Shmuel. Shechar me'arevim bo. You are allowed to do an eruv with shechar, with beer. U'poselet mikveh b'shlosh lugin. And if the beer falls into a mikveh, if you have 3 lugin falling inside of a mikveh, so then it says over here it's going to be poselet a mikveh. Okay? That means basically you need 40 seah without this. If this fell in before the 40 seah, so it disqualifies the mikveh. Okay? So
Rabbi, just incidentally, I'm studying Pesachim 103, which is talking about, no, not that, it's another place where the water, it's in Makos, about what invalidates the mikveh. Only the 7 liquids. So beer is not one of them. Although beer is mostly water, so maybe it should. You know what I mean? Vinegar is mostly water.
It says that since the beer is the majority water, that's why it's got the din of water. Read the footnotes, Richard.
Yes, you're right. That's right.
Very good. So Matkifla Rav Kahana comes and he asks the following question. Shita, it's obvious. What's the difference between beer and colored waters? It's the same thing. The Tanambas we learned on Mishnah Mikvaot. Rabbi Yosef says, Mei Tseva posin tamikve b'shloshet lagim. Mei Tseva, the waters which are drawn, which are colored waters, are posel the mikveh in 3 lugin. So says the Gemara Amri, they said hatam over there, Maya de Tziva mikre. It's considered waters which are colored waters. Hacha shikreker. Here it's called beer. So it's not colored waters, it's beer. So therefore it's not considered 100% like water, but rather it's like other liquids which do not posel the mikveh. So because of that, Shmuel had to teach you that the shechar is considered water, even though it's not cold water, and therefore it is posel the mikveh. So how much do you need in order to use it for an eruv? So it says the Gemara, with 2 revi'im 2 reva kavs, 2 quarter kavs of shechar, which is 2 lugim. Again, 172 milliliters. Okay? As we learned in the Mishnah, if you take out wine from the reshut to another reshut, you're going to be chayav chatat when you take out kedem mezigat kos, enough wine, which is enough usually that they have to fill up the cup, right? In order to pour water into the cup to dilute it. The tani Allah, so we learned that kedem mezigat kos yafeh has to be a good cup. What is the kos yafeh? Kos shel beracha, has to be a kos of beracha. Okay. Fine. So says the Gemara, V'am Rav Nachman of Ravua, says Rav Nachman, name of Rabba Ravua, Kol shel beracha, tzri shebo rova revit. A kol shel beracha, you have to have, right, a reva of a revit, a kav of yain chai. Okay, so basically a revit a lug, a quarter of a lug, which that's what we call. When we say revi'it, by the way, the revi'it is the short for revi'it halug, a quarter of a log. Okay? So it says over here, in order that it should have a revit, which is that we already mentioned. Like Rava. Rava says, if you have any type of wine that you don't put it 1/3 to water, it's not considered wine. It's not good wine. Okay, because that's how you have to do it. So once upon a time, remember, in the olden days, they had to dilute it so much because it was so powerful, the wine, that if you didn't dilute it, you wouldn't be able to drink it. Okay?
You get drunk right away.
Yeah. Uktani seifa, and we also learned in the seifa, with the revit, in any type of water which is not clean, revit, it's also going to be a revit. Right? That means that it's called shofchin, which is like, bad waters. Okay? So says the Gemara, the hatam al chadarba, since over there we learned that shechar is going to be 1/4. Because wine is a quarter of a log. Shechar is a full log. Hachanami, so to here, it should be, al-chadarba, it should be, right, 1/4. That means if you need 2 revi'its for a log of wine, so then you need 2 logim, for beer. Meaning it's the same numbers always. You need a revi'it log for wine, so you need 1 log of beer. So if you need 2 logs of wine, 2 revi'ot of log for wine, so you need 2 logs of beer. Says the Gemara, but it's not true. Why? If it's less than that amount, it's not important. But over here, you don't need it. Why? Some people, they drink a cup, a revita lug in the morning, and also the nighttime, and that's already enough. So therefore, the shiur of the ruv does not have to be a dar chashuv, only something which is fitting for 2 seudot. So there's 2 seudot, and that's already enough. Okay? Next, tmanim, dates. Bekama, how much do you need of dates? So Amar of Yosef says of Yosef, tmanim bekav. Tmanim is enough with a kav. Amar of Yosef says of Yosef, menamin Allah. How do I know this? The Tanya was going to the Braita, achal grogerot. If you eat dried figs of truma accidentally, the shilem tmanim, and you pay dates instead of the figs, tavo la bracha, you get a bracha. Hechidam, what's the case? Ilema lefidam, if you're going to pay according to the value.
With truma. That were truma. Dried figs that were truma.
They were truma, so that's why you have to pay it back. Okay, so that means if you're going to tell me now that it's according to a value, you ate a zuz, right? That's a value. And you paid back a zuz of the dates. What does it mean? It's 1 for 1, right? 1 zuz. What's the difference? Rather, according to the value, to the weight. Yeah, not according to money. You ate a grogeret of, which is shaveh azuz, the kasher grivet tmanim, which is worth 4 zuz. Uktani, that's what we learned. Tavolo bracha. Alma tmanim adifes. So you see from here, the dates are better than figs, because the dates you're paying 4 times the amount than what you're paying for figs. Okay. Amalei Abaye says, le'olam, really be'emet de'achal mineh bezuzah v'kam shalem zuzah. Really be'emet, you ate a zuz and you're paying back a zuz. So what is tavolo bracha? You're coming and you ate something which people don't usually buy. But you are paying back something that people buy. Meaning figs, there's not a lot of people that are jumping on it. Dates, there are. So if you ate the figs and now you're paying back dates, you're paying back something which is a better value because people are always running. There's a supply and demand. People are always running after it. Shetita, which is basically made out of kemach right, of a flour of grains, right, to toasted kernels, right, and honey. So Amar Rav Acha bar Pinchas says Rav Acha bar Pinchas, tre shuge, two spoons, kisane of toasted grains. Amar Abaye says tre bune de pumperita. We're talking about 2 bunas in pumperita. A bona is an agrof. ¿Cómo se llama? Un puño.
A fist.
A fist. Mele agrof. So it says in footnote. Bona. Okay? So Amr Abaye says, Amr Aliyem, his stepmother told him, Hani kisane. Me'alu liba. The klayot, these toasted kernels, are good for the heart. And it gets rid of all types of dagot, of worries. But Amr Abaye says, Amr Aliyem, my stepmother told me, yeah, Hayman deit lechulsha deliba, somebody that's got weak at heart, leti bisra de atma, yamina de dichra, he has to bring basar shok yamina v'layim, so the right thigh of a ram, v'laiti kivuye derata de Nisan, and he's going to bring excrement of bakar that they did during the month of Nisan. V'ileka, and if he doesn't have that kivuye derita, he doesn't have that, leti sugyata darvata, he's going to bring branches of the arava. The myrtle, no? The myrtle branch. No? Arava. Myrtle is hadas, no? Arava.
No,
Arava.
Willow.
Oh, willow. So myrtle is hadas then, no? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, hadas is the myrtle and the willow is Arava. So he's going to bring from the willow the nichbave, and he's going to burn it, whether it's the excrement or the willow branches. V'nechol, and he's going to eat it. Venishte batre, right? It sounds tasty, no? Whether it's with the excrement and the right thigh and everything, or the willow and all the. Yeah, venishte batre chamra markan. He's going to drink afterwards yain mazug, right? And that's going to help to strengthen his heart. Yeah, fine. Amar of Yehuda Mashmuel says of Yehuda Mashmuel, kol shu liftan, anything which is usually like a liftan, which is basically like it's an additive, something that you usually use to dip the bread in it. Okay, so then it's enough to eat with it. Anything which is not a liftan, you have enough to eat it, the actual mazon of sudot. So the liftan, which is that which you dip the bread in, or the tosefet that you add to the bread. So the shoot of the eruv is, right, to eat the bread with it. Okay, but that means you don't eat as much because you're eating the bread and you're adding that to the bread. But if you're eating that as that's the food, so then you have to have enough of that as well. Basar chai, right, raw meat, right, in order to eat it. Basar tzli, roasted meat, Rabbi Amar says, Yosef says, what's the difference? Kedei lechol bo is with it bread of 2 sudot. And Rav Yosef says, kedei lechol menu means that of it by itself, without the bread. So Amar Rav Yosef says, how do I know this? Tehani parsae, achle tavake velonama, because these Persians, they eat pieces of meat, roasted meat, without bread at all. So Amalei Abaye says, what? The Persians are the majority of the world. So we go after the Persians, right? So says the Gemara, I'm going to bring you a proof that a minhag of a certain group is not going to be kovea. The time we learned in the Braita, bigdei aniyim, la'aniyim, bigdei ashirim, la'ashirim. Pieces of clothing for the aniyim, which do not have 3 fingers by 3 fingers, they're considered clothing and they're mekabel tumah. But that's only for the aniyim themselves, but not for the ashirim. Only bigdei ashirim for ashirim. Which means that for the poor people, it's good for poor people. For rich people, they don't go according to the poor people, they go according to the rich people. Okay? Aval, Lamed Amud Aleph 38:1, Aval Bat, Yashirim Lanim no, but for the rich people to the poor people, it doesn't work. So you see from here, right, that it doesn't work in such a case. So therefore, we do not say because of a certain group of Persians or whatever it is, that's going to change everything now. Because of that, that's important just to know. And we know that we continue them tomorrow.